meeting room. And I think there are some guests also on the webinar. Okay. So now we try to set up so we can start in, yeah, let's say 1 minute from now. That everything is okay. So, hi. Okay, so if everything is okay and set up, I warmly welcome you, everybody here in the room, obviously, but also in the internet. And we have, again, a demonstration of the whole consortium. And the topic is about digitalization of business processes. So how can business, or we're using business processes as an instrument, how can business be digitalized? How we can transform IT infrastructure into the cloud? How can business become available in the cloud? So the presenters, we have more or less 2 packages. The one is what we're calling consulting packages. In the consulting, somebody goes to a company, asks the company, works with the company, and then makes some suggestions what is good to go into the cloud or what is not good. So this really means there are tools, there is knowledge, there's consulting experience, where there's a really an individual interaction with the client, with the business client, and then there are some recommendations. Should you go to the cloud, yes or no? People's production, which is called people's also operation. This is a little bit different. So here we are saying we are operating software as a services. So we are giving you some IT infrastructure, we're giving you some IT, we're giving you services, even we give you business processes, and this is an offering. So it's not that the consultant goes to somebody and interacts and discusses and makes recommendation. It's an offer. You go to a marketplace, you select what you want, you click, you buy, you have it. And because this is a research project, we also have innovations. So these are smart figures, smart features, and these smart features are presented by the universities and research and academic partners. So for everybody who is watching the video or is looking in the webinar or also here in the room, please don't be surprised that some things are overlapping. This is the natural way because we took the innovation from the researchers and implemented them into our tools. Some short interactions. Please mute the microphone so there is no echo. And on the other side, if you would like to interact with us, you can send us a chat. There is administration in Vienna who is watching everything, and if there are some urgent issues, we are connected, so we are aware of what's going on. So we actually aim that around 18, so at 6 o'clock, we are done with the demonstration. So it's about 1 hour, maybe it's a bit more, maybe it's a bit less, depending on the questions. And as you can see in the agenda, there are 2 main packages. The one is the consulting packages, where we provide tools for interacting with the customer. And the other one is the operation package, which is offering something. Okay, I think there was now a microphone on. Thank you for closing the microphone. Good, and then now the introduction. The introduction very quick. We are entering in a digital age. Behavior will change, and actually the way we live together, the social life, also business will dramatically change. Change in the way who earns money and who works. Change in the way what are the legal regulations, what is the compliance, but also change in the daily work, how we behave and what is normal for us and what not. And currently nobody can say how this direction goes, but what we can say is that actually everybody has to change within the next months or years. Why do I say months? Because GDPR is in place May 2018. So at that time, many companies are confronted actually with things, with new regulations. Also now with cloud and also with digital data, big data, edge computing, and so on, smart cities. So the way we behave is totally different. And CloudSocket is not aiming to solve all the problem, but CloudSocket would like to introduce a consulting tool, an assistant tool, knowledge, experience, how to make a stepwise approach in this transformation. We are not saying that we can solve the world, but what we can provide is a stepwise guided tour that we join you on this digital transformation with tools, with knowledge, etc. What is the challenge? The challenge is we have on a higher level the business expectations, and we have IT research. So if you talk about business, you talk about trust, quick wins, costs, simplification, switching costs, etc. And we have two customer brokers, business incubator and business consultant, who can talk about their daily life, what are the challenges in transforming. On the other side, you have IT and researchers who talk about complexity, technology, changes, multi-cloud behavior, security, new scenarios, etc., etc. So these are all things a business guy don't want to hear. And now the question is, how can you link these things? And we propose two things. One are so-called exploitation assets. So these are solutions, tools, services. You can buy them, you can consume them, you can ask for consultancy. So this is offered by companies, experienced companies. So if you go to the web page, there are experienced companies and you can take those solutions. And on the other side, we envision the world, how the world will be in a couple of years' time, which is our vision, where academic and researchers give us an outlook, what will be the next, in the next months, years, decades, what we expect. Now there is a story, and I don't want to talk too much because Jürgen from BBCon will explain this in detail, but this is what we would like to contact. We would like to contact persons that do not know IT. So if somebody needs to know about cloud computing and about hybrid deployment scenarios, etc., etc. So if you understand those words, you are not our target. If you think, cloud or what, multi or deployment, what is it? Then you are our audience. So we are talking, for example, in that case, to a biologist who is producing special type of worms, which is biological, very high tech, but she simply does not care about IT and computers, but still our idea is how this cloud and how our offerings, how she can transform her business into the digital world. And now how we did it is what we're calling a semantic distance. So people from the business talk a different language like people from the IT. So they're talking different languages and we need somehow somebody who translates it. And this translation is done by our consulting tools, our systems. We call it smart technology, and Knut will explain a little bit about smart technologies. We talk about graphical models, and Damiano will show you something about graphical models. So the question is, how can we bridge this gap from business language to IT language? And our approach is to have several steps in between. Now, how many of these steps you want to take, it's up to you. If you want to have a quick solution, you jump directly from the business process down to existing services. Of course, that's not personalized to you. Simply, you are using something which is out in the world, which somehow maps your needs. Or if you want to go one step further, you can detail what you actually mean with the business process in terms of what we're calling abstract workflow. This is an IT specification, a little bit more. Now you can again map to existing solutions. But again, this is not 100% personalized because it would be very, very lucky if you find for your particular personal needs an exact mapping solution. So you have to find a compromise. If you're not willing to make a compromise, okay, then you can offer somebody to implement something very specific and personalized for you. Then you have a personalized version, which is very expensive and takes time. So I'm not saying that this is a wonder tool. What I'm saying is we guide you to decide, do you want to have something quick, which is not personalized for you, and there are manual steps in between, or do you want, in the other extreme, something which is totally automated, only to your personal needs, but this costs a lot of money and time. And somewhere in between, we support you in any of these two extremes. How this is done, it's according to the 4 phases, which is design, allocation, Then we have the execution and the evaluation. And because this cloud aspect also introduces offering, we additionally added the offering. So the business process management has now an additional phase, which is called offering. And here we can do business process management in the cloud. Now, while this is needed, I would like to hand over to our first broker, Jürgen from Bellicon. And we will stay with the slides, but I hand over to Jürgen. Please tell us your experience.
Thank you, Robert, for the kind introduction. First of all, I introduce myself. My name is Jürgen Jenert. I represent BWCon. BWCon is an innovation facilitator in southwest of Germany and additionally an industrial network association comprising more than 600 companies. Robert said already in the beginning, life will change. We will have this kind of disruptive innovation. And when I say we are innovation facilitator, I would like to make, first of all, a kind of introduction to the overall topic from our perspective. You see here on this slide, two technology cycles in the black curve, cycle 1 and cycle 2. Let's focus what happens in this cycle 1. We have first on the blue line the number of companies working on a product innovation. A lot of products are there. Companies are usually focused in the first stage if a new technology appears on products. The products become more and more competitive, and you have to differentiate yourself from your competitor, and you start jumping to the blue dotted line to process or service innovation. And in green, you see the overall companies in the market, and you see at a certain point of time, the curve goes down, and the automotive sector, so to speak, is on the downhill because we have seen less and less and less companies that emerge. And Robert said, yes, we have a tremendous change in front of us, which means what happens in the phase where we jump from one technology cycle to the next one. And here it is a very big challenge for companies how to position yourself, your service in the market. But what does this mean? What does this mean being innovative? First of all, you increase the product, fine. But then you jump from the product curve, from the product innovation, from the blue line to the blue dotted line. You enhance services. And these services are IT services. These services you then implement are just IT services. Usually you cannot deploy a service in this digital transformation without ignoring the IT. And now, of course, this has the requirement that companies have to implement fast, first along the lines, then changing from one line to the others. And during the digital transformation, which means jumping from one black curve to the next black curve, here we have to deploy the business by means of IT and place the service to the market. And this is very challenging because there we need completely new value generation networks, completely new situations, and that's not just doing the things we have done so far just a bit better, but of course making completely new value generation networks. And here we are with our project CloudSocket. Go to the next slide. So what is the role of IT? Not only in SMEs, but especially in SMEs. Okay, the only role of IT is here in this context to implement the business models. We have a lot of technologies which trigger this kind of digital transformation. Here you see cloud, data analytics, IoT, 4G, 5G, but blockchain, organic printed IT, 3D printing, and so on and so on. There are a lot of technologies, and all these have the potential that we jump from one black curve to the next one. And what is needed? What is the challenge for the companies? To think not just in the existing value chain, but to create new ones. And this, again, as I said, implement the business in IT. Without IT, you cannot scale this up. Without IT, you cannot conquer in a very fast time the whole market. Without IT, you cannot deploy this fast and flexible. Okay, so we have to support the implementation of new business models, new value generation networks, and we have then, if the company grows, we have to adapt. Because also, I mean, if we implement a business model, then it's a complete difference if the company is small and company is very big. It's international. And even in the growing stage, also here, we have the challenge that we have to have always the right doses of IT in order to allow the company to grow efficiently. And this is exactly the point where CloudSocket comes up with a solution where we think this is a more agile and a more dynamic solution in order to support companies in this phase. By the way, if you look on the market, you can say yes, small SMEs start with Excel and other tables, which is simple, intuitive, fast, relatively cheap. But then, of course, this infrastructure does not support you to scale up, because then, of course, you have a lack of functionality. On the other side, you could use SAP, powerful tools. They're powerful, they're complex, they're slow, they're expensive, and they have not enough agile solutions in order to adjust to these differences. And then, in between these two extreme sides, CloudSocket has provided an infrastructure which allows the companies, which allow the customers to guide through this cloud, to this, to guide through this cloudy challenge in order to adjust the business IT alignment to the always optimal stage. This is a bit the boundary where this project works on, and now I hand over to Robert.
Yeah, okay. Now, thank you very much, Jürgen. That was a view from a business incubator, and business incubator was more or less a view that innovative startups, innovative companies are coming, and they are asking for innovation, or they bring innovation. Now we change a little bit the focus for a consulting view. The consulting view is from a broker who is not dealing with young startups mainly that want to introduce an innovation. Here the question is the other way around. Why do they need to change? So what do we need to give them that they are aware that how they are doing money now needs to be changed in some way? And therefore, I hand over to Stefano. Thank you very much. We stay with the slides, and please go on.
Thank you, Robert. Short introduction of myself. I'm Stefano Cuomo. I'm from Matema. Matema is an IT and business consultant company located in Florence, in Italy, and we have among our customers a lot of SMEs that are mainly mature companies. They are not generally not well acquainted with the innovation in information technology, and they have generally a problem. They have to face the trade-off between growing and between facing the competition. So, for instance, we have a customer that we can say GasMet, that is a company dealing with gas meters that is going to need to grow in order to face the competitors. And one question that they ask themselves is how we can give a better service to our customers. And this is typically a business question. And so the business and organizational questions are, how can give our needs are, for instance, to allow the customer to track real time how the status of the repair is, or improve also the internal communication among the various departments involved in the operations, both in the back office and on the field, and also how to make their legacy system interoperable, since major companies very often need to face the problem of the legacy system that are not generally conceived as an unicum, but are growing in time. And so they are, let's say, stratified. And so there can be some problems in interoperability, and this problem are generally solved by the human factor in the back office. So what is our as Matema role, and how do we want to solve in the CloudSocket perspective? First, the first task is to align the business needs in technical solution. The business needs generally, not just in this example, for a company, either to cope with the cost reduction, the quality of work, the risk reduction, the efficiency, and so on. And which can be the technical solution? Technical solution can be to deploy CRM or to implement the workflow engine to give some unique access point for customer and so on. And GasNet, our customer, has the majority of the companies that are our customers does a need to upgrade from their legacy systems, but not towards other, let's say, expensive and standalone system, but towards flexible solutions. Since for an SMEs, you know, the future is not so clear, so they need a flexible solution in order to fast reply to the market changes, both in a positive and in a negative way. So, which is our perspective, broker's perspective in CloudSocket. And these steps will be then shown by my colleagues. So the first thing is that we, as a consultant, has to understand which is the business process modeling. How to model the business process in these companies, and so do we need a business process modeling tool in order to formalize, but in a way that is understandable both to us and to customers. Robert says we are not talking to IT experts, we are talking to businessmen, people that is working in an organization. Then we are moving towards the implementation of CloudSocket. This is from the business modeling tool to deploy an asset workflow, and then go to our customer and tell, you have, generally speaking, two kind of solutions. The first one is to have a very tailored solution, a very expensive, but with the full option, let's say, or you can have always in CloudSocket some pre-worked solution that you can use with some advantages, but with a let's say supplementary effort from your side. That is the advantage. Is not to be permanent, since you can choose one solution and then think to migrate to a more complete and more integrated solution without losing what you have already developed inside. So this is our perspective. And Robert, and over to you to explain how this will be implemented.
Okay, so Stefano, thank you very much. Now we had the introduction, and we are moving to the first package, which is the consulting package. Now again, why do we need the consulting? Just to recap, and this is important, and therefore I read more or less what is on the slide. The challenge for every organization is therefore to identify those digital services that support in making business and avoid those digital services that either raise risks, raise difficulties, or simply do not pay off. So as I mentioned earlier, we would like to have the balance in really saying, if you are transforming your business into the digital world, what are the services we can recommend you? And with we, I mean the consultant, so experts. What experts can recommend you for your situation, this is recommendable to move, and where we recommend do not do it, okay? And as I said, from the very beginning of selecting a couple of services, I exchange my application, which is installed on my laptop, with an application that runs in the cloud, okay? I simply exchange, and we can recommend you for this or that application, yes, please do this. It's simpler, it's flexible, it's easier, it's more secure. And for some other applications, maybe the system, the consultant, the experts recommend, please don't do it. For your particular situation, it is not advisable to go there. And this is what we would like to offer. And now the question is how we are going to offer this. As I said, there are the different phases, and now we are going to the design phase. So I'm handing over now the screen to my colleague Damiano, and he will show you what's in the design phase. Everybody who is interested, these are the tools, you can download them. There's a free version of Adonis Community Edition, which is for free. There is a commercial version, which is in the cloud available. You have some screenshots, which will be presented now by Damiano, and of course there are some demonstrations and videos. Actually, in all of these tool presentations, you have these links if you would like to go into detail. So now I hand over the screen to Damiano.
Thank you very much, Robert. I should be already. I should be presenting already. No, not yet. I tried. It's on my screen, but it's not. I try.
Okay.
I start back.
Now we had some technical problems, but now it's working. Damiano, please.
Okay. Yep. So now I will show you the BPaaS design environment. That is a web platform that gives you the possibility to model, review, and explore all the important aspects that you need to define in order to create your to deploy your service online. In particular, I'm talking about the business process that is possible to model in BPMN format, the workflow, the deployment rule in the MN, and the KPI model in order to define KPI goals. This one is an overview of a model defined for the sending voice. And okay, thank you. And now I will show you some features of the model. In particular, the first one will be the possibility to find and annotate a part, an activity, or more than one activity with some existing services. And this annotation is performed in a semantic way, answering some questionnaire. In particular, it's possible to create a group of one activity or more than one, and visualize the questionnaire, and answer this questionnaire will give the possibility to filter through services, but this part will be explained in more detail later by our colleague from the Fachschule. Once a service has been annotated, we can check the cloud readiness level of a business process through a feature that is available in the editor. So the cloud readiness gives the possibility also through a series of other questions specific for the general business process and for each activity to evaluate a score that give an overview of how much the service is ready to be deployed. First of all, we have to answer, we pre-filled some questions in order to speed up the process. And once you answer general question about the business process, we have to answer more detailed question for each activities. And answering these questions, the service will return a score that will be displayed graphically in the model. And then you can continue with the next activity and so on, following all the path of the process. Other two important features are the possibility to simulate the business process and formally verify the business process. The simulation gives the possibility to run in a simulated environment the process and estimate the cost, execution time, and other values, statistical indexes, while the formal verification instead gives the possibility to check and avoid the presence of incorrect behavior like deadlock or live lock in the system. Here, this one is the result of the simulation. You can see information on the path, so the probability that it can be executed or not, if it's deadlocked or live locked, the waiting time, the execution time, or calculated by the environment, and info for every activity in the process. That's all.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so maybe I can recap. I think afterwards we'll see the dashboard.
Yep.
Just to recap, this is a tool for consultants, and they can now identify the business process, and by this group, which with the questionnaire, which will be afterwards explained, directly make initial proposals. For this process, there exist 274 services in the cloud, which you could use. We are not saying it's good, but potentially it's there. Then there is an additional questionnaire with knowledge that has been acquired over years, and those questions guide you if it makes sense for you to switch. And this is the color code with the questionnaire, this cloud readiness level, where it says there are 25 services, but we don't recommend this particular process to you. Or in the other case, yes, there are 25 services, and we even recommend you to do it. Now, please select one out of the 25. And then you could have the simulation as an additional decision support, saying how often do you run it, what are the risks, how much costs do you have, and then at the end, maybe there are 3 services out of the simulation where it says the process is ready, we recommend you, and based on the simulation, how often you typically use this, we recommend you this package. But again, this is a consulting tool, so we are not expecting that the customer, the user is modeling, but we expect the consultant comes with this and provides you with these features, and you can exactly know why this recommendation came out. You can change the process, you can change the answers, you can change the values of the simulation, and you can play around till you're satisfied and say, okay, now I really played around, I really had different scenarios, now I believe this type of recommendation. In addition, we can recommend you a lot, but what we are also interested in is afterwards look if our recommendation did actually make sense. And therefore, we also provide a dashboard. So we're saying, yes, there is a cost reduction, or it's more stable, or your data are more secure. I would like, after a while, to assess. Yeah? And therefore, we only have a very quick view, I think, on the dashboard, saying they're like a business dashboard, but what we would like, we guide you through the transformation, also with a dashboard. Recommendation, evaluation, recommendation, evaluation, in a stepwise approach. Yep.
Okay. I will show you now.
Yes, please, Damiano, okay. Just a couple of words.
Okay, yeah. So basically, with this modeling tool, it's possible not only to model the, I explain later, also the KPI model, but through the KPI, we're able to connect to the evaluation environment and to read exactly the values from the KPI and live calculate the goals, if are satisfied or less or not, and the scores of the KPIs. And this one is an example of the visualization for the KPI in this particular case. We have indicator on the current status and also historical values, and with a easy user interface that can be used for filtering or grouping indexes and goals.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you very much, Damiano. Now let's switch back to the slide set, which we have. Thank you very much. What we just showed you is not only the business process management with Adonis, but also the dashboard. And for example, if we say, please change because they are sensible data and the data are more secure, I would like to evaluate if this recommendation is true. Was it really true? does it really solve your problem? Again, there are some links to the webinar. The tool which we are using is called Score. But the question is, what is now the innovation? And why is not everybody else doing this? And not everybody else is doing this because it's extremely difficult to get the data out of the cloud infrastructure to the business level. And this nobody else has a ready solution yet. And we are among some few groups that investigate on this, and therefore I would like to hand over. I think we show this the slide, and then we are handing over. So maybe Chris, if you are staying with my screen now, but Chris from Florence, can you explain how can we get the indicator from the infrastructure to a manager who says yes, it was worth investment?
Okay, thank you, Robert, for the introduction. The BPaaS evaluation relies on information that comes from different components of the execution environment. These components perform cross-layer monitoring. Cross-layer monitoring, that is, these components deploy sensors from the infrastructure to the service and the workflow layers, and we have all this information about the BPaaS performance. Also, the information that is harvested from the execution environment contain information about, we have mappings between the BPaaS and the workflow, and from the workflow to specific cloud services. This mapping enables us to know which is the source component for each specific measurement that comes from the monitoring sensors. This dependency information, along with the KPIs, are modeled and structured using specific ontologies, and then this information is stored into a knowledge base. Now, in order to perform KPI evaluation, we execute specific Spark queries over this knowledge base in order to get the result of the KPIs, and then we compare these results with the KPI threshold in order to conclude if there is a KPI violation or not. Apart from simple KPI evaluation, we also perform KPI drill down. That is, we have a KPI hierarchy. We have the top KPI and the children KPIs, and in this way, we can derive if there is a violation of the top KPI, which child KPI in the lower levels of this hierarchy is blamed for this specific violation. Then I'm continuing with the demo.
Okay, so please let's hand over now the slide to Chris, because there's many monitoring tools. And there are many business dashboards, and the challenge is to link them, to link the business dashboard with the cloud monitoring. And I hope that we manage to hand over the screen now to Chris. You're here.
Okay, this is actually the REST service behind this functionality. This REST service contains a number of methods. Two are the main methods of this REST service. This is the evaluate KPI and the KPI drill down method. There are some other assisting methods that enable us to perform evaluation of any KPI. In order to perform the simple KPI evaluation, we have to fill in some parameters for this method, that is the broker ID, the bundle ID, the KPI name, and the KPI period. And when we execute this query, we get a number of results, that is the values of this KPI, and then we compare these values with the KPI threshold in order to conclude if there is a violation. The second method is the KPI drill down method. This method requires the same parameters, but in this case we have to fill in a more generic KPI, and when we execute this query for the KPI drill down method, we get the number of results, that is the value of the top KPI as well as the values of the children KPIs. In this way, we can conclude if which child KPI is blamed for the violation of the top KPI in this hierarchy. That's all for the BPAS evaluation, and thank you. You can hand over to the next.
Yes, thank you, Chris. Now let's go back to the slide set because we now, thank you very much. We now would like to introduce also the research injection. As I said, in this project we have two packages, a consulting package, which we already presented. So one consultant comes to the user, does all these things which we propose, and this is performed by companies, experienced companies. But there's also the research viewpoint. How can this be in future? So what is the innovation injection? What is the vision? And therefore, Knut, please present the slides which are on the screen, and then I think we hand over. Thank you. Knut, please.
Okay, now we talk about the alignment of the business and ID. This means we have on the one hand side the business view, and they have requirements. On the other hand side, we have the technology. This means the cloud services. And we want to align these two. We call it the smart alignment, and we do it by supporting this with modeling. On the one hand side, we have the models of the business processes done by the business people, business users, and on the other hand side, we have description of the modeling of the cloud services. And this modeling typically is done in a graphical environment, as we already saw it. This is what we see on the left-hand side. This is easy to understand and interpret by humans. On the other hand side, when we want to do the smart alignment, we need some formal representation that can be interpreted by machines. And this connection between the human interpretation and the machine interpretation is done by what we call the semantic lifting. So we have a description of the meaning of the semantics of the elements of the graphical models in an ontology, and we can map the graphical models to this ontology. And then we can use this to make recommendations and the alignment. The ontology is based on some standards. So we use the standard for enterprise architecture, which is called Archimate, and represented this in an ontology. We have an ontology about description of functional requirements, and we have representation of non-functional requirements, which altogether form the BPAS ontology for business process as a service. And this is how it works. So we have a model of the business processes, and we can extend these models with representations of the requirements. This is done in the notebook of our design environment. So we have some attributes where we can add the requirements. For example, the functionality that we want to achieve. On the other hand side, we have a model of the workflows and the services. And for this, we have the cloud service specification. Done in a similar way, we have the notebook with the attributes, and then we fill the attributes. For example, the availability of the service, requirements regarding security, and so on. So now, how do we proceed this? So we have the graphical models, we have the description of the requirements and the specification. Now we transform this and translate this in the representation that is extending the current ontology. And now we can do this smart alignment with this formal representation. And this smart alignment mainly consists of two parts. On the one part, we have the mapping between the business and the IT. So we can use the knowledge of the ontology, and we can derive new facts. For example, if we have a requirement that the service has to run at least once a week, for example, for some monitoring, and we find services that runs daily, we can also use this service because it runs at least once a week. Okay? So we use this knowledge of the ontology. On the other hand side, we map the business knowledge in the language of the business users to the language of the IT. Here's a very simple example. The business users can say something, okay, I want to have this service available, and we accept only a downtime of 1 hour per week or something like that. So they speak in downtime. but the specification of the service might be in availability in the percentage. So we can map this to very simple example. And after this mapping of the languages, then we can compare the business requirements with the cloud service specifications, because they are now in the same language, and then we can make a comparison. We have two problems. On the one hand side, we have to find the appropriate services. If possible, we want to only have one service for the whole process, but maybe we do not find this. So this is represented by our approach, by our procedure. So we first look for a service for the whole process. So we look for the requirements of the whole process and try to identify appropriate workflow that implements the process. If we do not find this, then we look for process fragments, which can be groups of activities or single activities. So here, group of activities or single activities, we look at these requirements and try to find an appropriate service. And if this is not possible, then we can go down and look for fragments of the fragments until we find service, or we have to say there is no service available that satisfies the requirement. Okay, so we find the most general process or service for the process. But we have a second problem. It's a lot of effort to specify all these requirements, in particular if you do not need them, because we find appropriate service already for the whole process, and why should we specify the requirements of the fragments. So what we now have as a solution is we ask only for the relevant information. We do not specify all the requirements. We ask only for the relevant information using user preferences and entropy, and identify as early as possible if a service is available or not. And then we can go down and drill down for the details. So this is how it looks like. Instead of specifying the requirements, at the time of the consulting, we make a questionnaire. So we ask the business person about the requirements that he really needs to have satisfied. So we identify relatively early if there's nothing for the whole process, then we can also again drill down. We look with the appropriate questionnaires until we either find a service or we have to say there is no service available. And how this works will now be shown by my colleague, Emanuele Laurenzi.
Okay, so we need to switch the screen now to Emanuele. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Knut. So let's have a look at the application scenario. The company Golden Worm, it's in an early stage, and this is the process. There are two services that cover this process. One is related to the CRM, so customer relationship management, which is the Sugar CRM. The other one covers the invoice management system. It's the simple invoices. Here I show a few of the specifications which are common to each other. So the storage location is in Germany. The storage type is a local file system. Availability is about 99%, and the number of simultaneous users is 3. Fine. Now the business expands after a few months, and the same company wants to enlarge. So new requirements are coming. Now, from Germany, the storage location will be Austria, Greece, Italy, Romania, Spain, and Switzerland. Then, accordingly, also the storage type should shift from local file system to cloud storage service. Then we do have the downtime also, which we would like to reduce from 8 hours per month to 2 minutes. Then the daily transaction, as well as the concurrent users, increase. So what the broker would do, screens the requirements, and we find out that for the storage type, it is needed a document management system. So now the next step would be to model, to adapt the process, add a lane as well as an activity. The activity would be called managed document, which is placed in the lane document management system. So now we do apply the questionnaire on this specific activity, the managed document. And I will show you by how this questionnaire works. So we first ask questions which are related to the functional requirements, and then afterwards the non-functional requirements. For the functional requirements, we specify object, action, as well as APQC category. Action is related to the verb of the activity, which in this case is, sorry, not the, we talk about the object, which is related to the name of the activity, which means document. So here's document. Here takes place the semantic lifting that Knut was talking about before. So we perform a call to the almost 10,000 concepts and relations that we have in the ontology. Document is retrieved. We go next. As soon as I click on next, a SparkQL construct is performed. So this query will be selecting the most appropriate cloud services according to the specifications of the answer question. So on the right-hand side, we see the list of the services that stepwise gets shrunk down. The more I answer, the more they will be reduced. The action is related to the verb. So in this case, is manage. Click, go next, another query is performed. APQC, let's say, generate customer billing data, the most appropriate for this activity. Then next. So now we start to answer to questions that are related to the non-functional requirements. And the user in this case would prefer, we assume that it prefers to have a look at the data security category. Okay, we click on that. Next. And now the entropy algorithms of this smart algorithm kicks in, which means the question that is able to distinguish the services the most will be displayed. So in this case, we have this question: how would you like to store your documents? You can decide either storage services or local file system. You remember before from the application scenario, the business expanded, so we want to shift to the storage service. So we click on that. Next, another query is performed, and now the two services are remaining: Google Drive and Dropbox. So these on the right-hand side are the most readable cloud services for the business process requirements. And with a few questions, we're already able to identify them. So now we switch back to the application scenario. So what I've just shown is the retrieval of the two services for the activity managed customers. Now, managed document. Now we do apply the questionnaire also on the group of activities that is related to the invoice management system, and we retrieve two services: Open Billing Source and Ninja Invoice. And we also do apply the questionnaire on the group of activities that is related to the customer relationship management, and we identify IMENS and Zo CRM with all the specifications here accordingly. So once we have identified this bunch of services, then our partner Ford will do the final selection. And now I'll hand it over to Knut for the final summary.
Okay, so what we saw is how we can select the services that are appropriate and satisfying the requirements. And we saw that there are still some more available. So this is now remaining on a technical level. Therefore, we have different tools to select the ones who is most appropriate from the technical point of view. And here's the summary of what we saw. On the top right, we saw that we have modeling on the graphical level, and that we can translate this by semantic lifting into a formal representation that can be automatically executed. And we use this for the questionnaire, where we use the knowledge of the ontology to select the appropriate questions that we have to ask to identify the services that satisfy the requirements as fast as possible by translating the language of the business user to the IT language and matching the appropriate services. So this is the conclusion. What we saw is the smart business IT alignment, which is supported by domain-specific modeling. Domain-specific means we have a language for specifying the requirements and the description of the services. The Ontology defines the semantics, so the meaning of all the elements that we have in the model, and with the context-adapted questionnaire, we are able to ask only for the relevant information in order to identify the suitable service as quick as possible. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Knut. Thank you, Emanuele. Now we are switching the setting to the second part of this demonstration. We are a bit behind schedule, but I think we will catch up. So in the first part, we say the consultant comes to a user, and with what we are calling modeling tools, helps to identify the requirements, the measurements, and selection of the appropriate services. There is a lot of technology behind, but what we can actually take with us is, why do we do this modeling and ontologies? It's everything concerned with knowledge externalization. There is an expert, he has everything in his head, he's drawing, he's discussing, and if it's possible to extract this a little bit into the machine, that there is support from the machine, this is what we call modeling, ontology, semantic, etc., etc. So what we have is consultant goes to a user, and with the human knowledge and with machine knowledge, it supports smartly the step-by-step translation. Now we make a jump to the very extreme and assume everything is already done. So we have implemented many business processes, and you simply select the one you would like to have. Currently, this is the dream, this is not reality now, but we are starting to fill. So now you don't need a consultant, because everything is there. You simply want to go to the marketplace, type in what you want to do, compare the business process, simplify. And by the snap of the finger, the whole infrastructure is installed just for you. You don't need anything on your laptop and say, now I would like to do invoicing. You have the invoicing. For 10 customers, for 10 customers. For 1,000 customers, for 1,000 customers, including compliance, including compliance. You click the button on the marketplace, and by pure magic, everything is done. Sadly, this is not available now. We are implementing it, we are building it up. And sadly, this is not magic, but this is software technology. And here I have Valerio and Konstantin Valerio, who is now presenting this marketplace. So we are switching to the screen to Konstantin Valerio, and please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Robert. Yes, so what we have here running live at csmarket.imens.com is the CloudSocket marketplace. This is where the business processes end up after they are created, like Robert said. We have here these business processes on the right side. On the left, we have some filtering possibilities. We can filter the processes by status, by relevant tags, and also you have a price range here. Okay, so about the business processes, there are two types of business process. We have the software issue tracking basic here, which has a I want it button. This is an abstract process that cannot be bought. It can only be you can only express your intent in buying this process by clicking this button here and starting a discussion with the broker on it. The regular business process type, the one that you can buy and execute, are the ones here that have the add to cart buttons. Let's see if you click on one of these, what can you see? So we have a send invoice, yes, Europe here. You have a price here. You have some details about this business process and also relevant tags that you can search by. You have the business process definition here that you can zoom in and see if this process actually does what you like. You also have a workflow tab that you can zoom in and see the business process execution workflow. Yes, and also you have here a service level agreement for this business process. That being said, if you would like to be more than a regular user, if you would like to be a broker, you just have to click the request broker account on top here. You will provide your full name, email address, phone number, and click the request button, and we will provide you with a broker account. This is all about the marketplace.
Okay.
Thank you, Robert.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you, Constantin Valerio. Now we are switching back to my screen, to the slides. Thank you very much. So what we are seeing, we have seen a marketplace where you can buy a business process. So if you click on the buy button, all the infrastructure is set up and you can run it. So by the snap of the finger, all this IT infrastructure and the licenses, the applications are installed. And obviously, because there's a lot of things going on in the back, there is also this I want, so that you have some early communication. Coming back, we have seen in the operation package, in the consulting, design and evaluation, and now we are here in offer and execution. And this is what I would like to hand over now. It's Joachim who is explaining a little bit. Okay, what happens if you press a button? So what? So you buy 21 euros, but what happens underneath? So, Joachim, please, the floor is yours.
As Robert has commented, what happens when you click in the marketplace? Of course, after paying in PayPal, something happens that it is the step 2. And what it is, Frank will explain afterwards, because for the customer it's completely transparent. At the end, the deployment is installed in the cloud, and the customer receives an email to say that all is up and running. We will see now in the demo that the customer receives this email and they can execute this VPAS bundle. When the customer executes this VPAS bundle, we will see that there is orchestration here, to orchestrate the different cloud services that we have integrated in this VPAS bundle. For this demo, we are choosing the CRM and the Invoice Ninja. So what it is transparent for the customer is that we will join, you will see in the demo, we will join the different cloud service in only one access to combine all together. Also, we can add Dropbox and different services. For this case, we are only use CRM and Invoice Ninja. You have here the more details in the demo, and just only before to start with the demo, you will see in the demo there are mainly the 3 tools. One is the workflow engine that the different customer will use in order to create automatically all the steps that they have defined in the business process. And automatically they obtain the client from the Microsoft CRM, completely transparent for the user, just only to show you. Synchronize this client with the Invoice Ninja, so at the end, the customer doesn't need to go to one application to copy paste, to move to another one, and to create manual steps. It is automatically synchronized. And of course, at the end, they allow to manage the different invoices that we have created today, send it, and so on. So let's go to the demo. As I have commented, the customer will receive the email, send it for the marketplace that all is installed. Thank you for purchasing this VPAS bundle, and you can enjoy using it to address here. So the customer only needs to click here, and automatically is redirected. The account of this customer is the same that we have it in the marketplace. So at the end, there are only one account for all the transversal tools. So let's select the mark that it is the responsible of the startup, confirming, and what the customer sees. This is the dashboard for the workflow engine, and if you click in the process, the customer can see that all the VPAS bundle that has been deployed automatically in the cloud. So now this is the business process that we have purchased in the marketplace, and they can start the process. When you start the process, as you know, the workflow are different steps, and every step is assigned to different groups inside the same company. Before to go to accounting department. That's only to show you that we have it here, administration, because this user can manage the different users associated to this company. So every user has different groups or departments, and also they need, of course, to configure the tokens. We have the documentation in order to facilitate this. It's the only step that, of course, every company needs different tokens in order to be interact with the service in the cloud for your company. But it is also documented in order to allow to reduce this configuration. So let me show you if we change to the colleague of Mark, that it is Robin. So choose the Robin account and enter in the workflow engine. Of course, the dashboard is completely different. The menu is has been changed now, and it is a simple user, so they only see what are the tasks that are in the inbox of this user. In this case, there are 2 in queue. I suppose this is the previous one. Yes. So they can start here to pedir, that is in Spanish, is multi-language. So you have it here. This is an intermediate step. It should be automatic. Just only want to show. We want to show here that at the end we are using the tokens that we have configured. So every company has the same token only for this company. So of course it can be an automatic step. So now in accounting we see that there is the first one, and now there is another task that it is select the client. What does it mean, the select the client? If you remember, we have synchronized the CRM. So now we are seeing here what are the clients that this company has in the CRM. We can go very quickly to the CRM. This is the CRM in the cloud. So this company has the Microsoft CRM, and here you can see that automatically we have synchronized both engines in order to obtain the same list. So the customer doesn't, they are obtaining directly, and they can choose what are the client that they want to create the client without to go to the CRM and to obtain this data. So for example, we can choose New Hungera and complete the task. Of course, the same occurs now. Sorry, that's we have a functionality here that you can also update if there are pending invoice. So I need to create a new invoice here. If not, there is not a previous invoice. So at the end, we will go to the same step. So we finish now, and now what happens is that create a new invoice. So here the customer can create it, the new invoice. So at the end they can read here the product can be the hummus, and the note can be a bag 5 kilos, and the cost 20 euros, and the quantity 2. Okay. So what happens when they create the next step? If we go to the Invoice Ninja, of course, this is the invoice system that we have selected. We have it here, the invoice, and you will see now there are one that it is created several months ago, and now if we go in our step, we created now, if we refresh the invoice, a new invoice has been created automatically, also using the clients that we have collected in the previous step. And it is the draft status. Another option that we introduced here is that we can create different roles for the same company. Invoice Ninja is not ready to have validation in the step in order to create this. We can introduce also this using, because now it is pending to be validated by the boss. The boss, if you remember, is Susan, that it is the boss of the company. And if we connect it as a Susan, you will see that Susan belongs to the supervisor department, they have it a pending task to approve this invoice. They can review it and say, okay, this is okay. Well, first they need to assign, and they see if she decides that it is correct, finish the task, and now the process is finished. If we go to the invoice, we will see now that it's sent. So at the end, we have also introduced different levels of validation that it is not covered by the invoice linear. Of course, this is automatically sent to the user, and we can add, as Emmanuel has commented, to introduce an intermediate step is to move this automatically to the Dropbox or the Drive or whatever. So we can improve this workflow in a small steps. So just only to summarize, you have it here in the presentation. Also, you have, there are the tools that we have shown. You have here more details about the demonstration, also the webinars, and of course the endpoints. If you want to enter, you only need to ask for a user, and you can use it. So thank you.
Okay. Yeah, thank you very much, Joachim. Let's go back to the slides for a moment, please. Thank you very much. Okay, and while Luis is, who is using Constantine Valerio's laptop preparing, I would like to make a short summary. I always find it very exciting if Joachim presents, let's say, a very simple business process. You send an invoice, yeah, you have a customer relationship management, and you send it by email. But actually, you play three roles. The one who is generating the invoice, the other one who is sending the email, the other one who is checking. So actually, this is a scenario where we want to show, look, we know that out there it's a bit more complex than just the user interface. There are different roles, there are different responsibilities, there are existing systems, there are existing data sets. You talk about migration, you talk about usage, and so on and so on. So we can deal with the complexity, but as you saw, this is a prototype. It's not a professional interface, because to polish everything, to have nice interfaces, it really needs a lot of effort to be styled to the style of your company. And yeah, this takes money. So the question is, what I said before, are you happy by simply using a couple of services, or do you want to have a fully integrated version? And okay, this is the balance, and you can, for each step, you know what you get, and you decide what you want. This is too much, this is too less. Okay, step by step. Now, what we saw could be easily say, well, that's a typical workflow. It's a workflow. But what is behind, and this is what we have here known as allocation, is that the workflow is not running somewhere on an IT system, it's running in the cloud. And now the question is, what is the difference? And I think now Luis is showing you what needs, in addition to this workflow, be added, that it's actually running in the cloud. So we hand over the screen again to, I think, Constantine. Perfect. So you need to accept. Okay, I don't know what happens. Okay, let's do it again. Thank you very much. Now hand over again, please, to Constantine. Maybe there is something wrong. Okay, can we try again to hand over? Okay, connection was terminated. I think there is a Good. Good. Can we try again? Yeah.
Perfect.
You need to mute the microphone here. Yeah, good. Okay.
Okay. So we can
Right.
see our
So thank you very much, Luis. Your floor is yours.
Thank you, Robert, for the introduction. So this is the allocation environment. This is the environment that connects the design environment to the marketplace and later to the execution environment. What we see in the picture right now is the area of a broker and all the projects, all the business processes that he has been working on. So in this case, I will show you. I will continue the case from Joaquin with the send invoice. So to do so, we click in Open. And I will show you what contains a bundle ready to be published in the marketplace. First thing we would need is the design the package. So first thing that a bundle requires is first the business process model, then the workflow, and as well some KPI model to be processed. Once we get this information, our system processes all this data and identifies the missing parts to be to construct a coherent bundle in order to be published in the marketplace. In this case, we are looking at a bundle already consistent, but I will show you all these areas. First thing we need to introduce is the marketplace metadata. This is composed by a text description and a business image, a commercial image to show this bundle. After that, we also need to define a pricing. In this specific case, this bundle would cost 10 euros only one time, but this can be set also to be a recurrent operation. Here, we can also define both the categories and the tags, as we've seen earlier. These will be used to filter the bundles in the marketplace. Finally, this is the juice part, the important part. We have the allocation of the components. As you can see here, we have the Ninja Invoice component, as Joaquin showed earlier, and the Atomic Service of the Microsoft CRM. Here, you would edit the software component, and in this area, you would select the specific virtual machine you will use to run this software component. At the same time, you can change in the Atomic Service which specific endpoints will run this specific Atomic Service. Given this, you would have a bundle ready to be published in the marketplace, but in the end, you can still add some key performance indicators that will allow you both to set SLOs to compose an SLA and create adaptation rules that will allow you to dynamically set resources and find resources to run your bundle. I will now give back the word to Robert.
Okay, thank you very much. As we are running out totally of time, I propose that we go directly to Frank. We didn't provide any additional input, but I think it's a little bit of fun to see what is behind the scene. So please stay with us for how many minutes? 2 or 3 minutes? 2 or 3 minutes. Yeah, and please don't. If you're not an IT freak, don't try to think how it works. Simply enjoy. So what magically things are behind, and there are bits and bytes. And Frank, you know it better than me. Yeah. Please.
So now we have a quick look behind the scene. That is what is going on when the customer bought the bundle and it's actually executed. So like Robert said, in the snap of a finger, you can actually use it. What I want to stress out are just 2 scenarios we had put an emphasis on in our research. That is, first of all, the multi-cloud deployment and orchestration, and also the dynamic adaptation. So what we did was others did not yet was that we're not only independent when it comes to cloud providers on the same level, but also managing the services between the levels. That is, we can move dynamically services between IaaS clouds to, for example, PaaS clouds and vice versa. So we have a demonstration video online. I won't show it to you now, but you can just look it on your own. Just give a quick overview on what already Joachim was mentioning, what is going on when the marketplace sends the bundle with the technological details, also with the BPMN to the cloud provider engine, which gets translated. Then in the first deployment, sets up a virtual machine, sets up the monitoring probes, so the workflow engine can actually decide on if the KPIs and also the SLA engine checks if the KPIs are not violated and so on. So that in the end, when everything is in place, the customer can actually use it. But now we come to our actual scenario, which is the bundle adaptation. So when something happens, the KPIs are violated, you might want to, for example, because you're running out of resources, you might want to switch to another cloud provider, in this example, from your private OpenStack installation to your public PaaS Heroku installation, and which was called the cloud burst. And also, for example, if a cloud runs out of business or just does not meet your requirements anymore, you can just move your application. So how this works, we'll just jump through, just have a look at how the adaptation process looks like, which is as the following. That we have 3 steps. First of all, we deploy the new component in Heroku. Then we monitor it on the adaptation engine, and the last step is that we delete the old component, so we save money and so on. And that's something that no one else did before. Yes, and that is also doable with CloudSocket automatically after you bought the bundle. But like I said, these are demonstrations we had held before, and now my PowerPoint doesn't react anymore, which doesn't matter because I was already at the end. And the demonstrations are online on our website for more information. Thanks very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Frank. Thank you very much. Maybe we can go to the slides back. Yeah. So I don't want to say much more. We are out of time. I just want to say thank you to Frank, and you have a very nice pullover with Cloudiators. You know that's a piece of software that does everything. So you're
exactly
very good. Now there are videos, and Frank explains it on other webinars. I only want to give one message to you. It's like if you have a socket and you consume power, electrical power. It does not come out. It has to be seamless. So there is an echo currently. Can we get rid of? Can we mute everybody? Yeah. Okay. Good. Thank you very much. Now I build up the tension, and now we are tired. If you consume electrical power, it's generated somewhere. It's generated by nuclear power plants, it's generated by coal power plants, it's generated however. So when you consume electricity, it had to be generated somewhere. And you have to ask yourself, is it okay for me how the electricity was generated? And now, thanks to Frank, we know that if something is in the cloud, there is also a guy who implements, and there is also a server that runs, and there is also a database. And I think the question is, where is it? And is it okay if I use Google, or if I use Twitter, or if I use Facebook? Is it really what I want to do? I can say I use the socket, but I use electricity, but I'm against nuclear power. I cannot use Google and I say I'm for data privacy. this is a conflict. And maybe this is what we want to give at the end. Also, it's cloud and blah, blah, blah. It's not magic. There are several lines of code. Thanks to Frank, now we know. If you want to keep in touch with us, there is a web page. We have on YouTube webinars. There's a lot of bunch of webinars. Each individual item is explained in more detail. We have the tools for download, and our next event is in Olten. And thank you very much for your patience. I'm sorry that we cannot have now the question. If there are any question or collaboration, please send us an email. We are happy for any feedback. And of course, I thank the guests here in the physical room. Thank you for suffering. It was a very long demonstration. Thank you very much, and goodbye from Florence. Bye-bye.